We are welcoming back to the show a guest who's been on this program almost as many times as I have.
Despite the mail.
Despite all the pan letters, he's back. No, I'll tell you, you get such a great reaction from our audience.
I have a big family.
And you paid them well. And they love hearing from you. And today is a very special day because today is actually your 89th birthday.
Sorry, knee-jerk reaction there.
It's Will Hutchins, ladies and gentlemen. In case you didn't know, star of TV's Sugarfoot, and of course, you've seen him in so many wonderful films and television roles. And as we go back, as we often do, and talk about people you worked with,
I ran into everybody.
Yeah, you did.
I was a lousy driver.
You ran into everybody, and you're still working on that stand-up act, and that's. But
right now it's up to a crawl.
It's a crawl.
I haven't got to the podium yet.
Right. You were friends with Vampira. I never would have expected that Sugarfoot and Vampira would have occupied the same space at one time, but you were friends with Mila Nurmi, weren't you?
Yeah, and I was in complete awe of her. I'm sure she was just a regular human being, but I set her way above me like a goddess, you know.
Yeah.
She was just terrific. Oh, she was wonderful. You know, fan magazines are always, when guys are starting out, they're always doing these layouts. I remember they had me do a layout with Dolores Michaels at Fox, gorgeous
wow.
lady. We did a bowling layout. We never met, and we've never seen each other since. But that one day...
This is magazine layout, or you're sort of just young actors frolicking, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, it's so phony. Yeah. You meet the girl, you go bowling, and never see her again, you know?
Right.
Well, this one is at the beach. So I invited all my buddies. I thought this would be great, all of us having a lot of fun at the beach. At least I knew the people, all of them. And I could take off my shirt. Clint Walker, eat your heart out. And so... one of my buddies went to the market or the bank on his way, and who should be in line with him but Mila Nurmi? And he recognized her, even though she didn't have dark hair, she had blonde hair. But other than that, he could put his fingers around her waist, you know.
Right.
He could tell her. And he invited her along for the big picnic at the beach, and she said, sure. So I still have the magazine article and all these crazy starlets and what's a guy?
I don't know, Starbucks. Up-and-comers or something.
We were all there, and then there was this mysterious lady. She wasn't in a bathing suit. She was in a dress, just kind of observing the whole occasion through these mysterious eyes. So that's how we met. And I took her to my 10th year high school reunion. Boy, and that knocked her socks off at the Roger Young Village bungalow there.
Now, did you watch her show when it was on
Oh, yeah.
TV?
Oh, gosh. You know, I love Charles Adams anyhow. And she was, I think, based on that character in the mysterious lady in the haunted house and the dilapidated house. And she made that movie Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah, that's
I think that was rated the worst movie of all time.
Right.
Well, obviously they hadn't seen any of mine.
But there we go.
So, and she got to be good friends with Bela Lugosi during his later years, and she accompanied him to occasions. She had to kind of nurse him because he was pretty far along, you know.
Right.
She and James Dean used to be an item, I
guess.
And she got mad at him. In fact, Betsy Palmer, our great friend Betsy Palmer and James Dean were roomies for a while. And she got mad at him and kicked him out. They were no longer roomies. And so Mila got mad at him, too, and said, you're never going to come in this house again. So he didn't take no for an answer. So one time he cased the place and saw that no lights in the house. So he jimmied a window or something, and she didn't take down his picture. His picture was still on the wall. Well, what he did was he took crepe, black crepe, and outside the frame, he pasted all this black crepe. And she swore to me that the day he died, that picture of him fell off the wall.
It's probably true.
There's something about these vibes. If I could find out, I'd take it to Vegas. I used to know this gal, and we dated pretty steadily, so we'd kiss once in a while, you know. And so I'd kiss her and I'd say Beta La Ghosty at the same time, and she thought that was quite thrilling. You might try that sometime.
Well, I'll tell you, these are good tips. I'm going to write them down. You can have a second career. How to Woo the Women by Will Hutchins. You'll have to work that into one of your Western clippings columns, a touch of Hutch.
That's not a bad idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That is a great... Okay, I'll give you a portion of my salary.
Now, I have to ask you about, because I think it was Babs that referenced that there was a Tuesday Weld story.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Babs. Can't get away with anything. Well, she used to live a couple houses down from me, but I thought I was too old. I didn't want to, you know. Lenny Bruce lived across the street. Now, he was really a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
I got a picture, a framed picture autographed by Lenny Bruce.
Wow.
Now, most people would have a picture of himself, wouldn't they? But he had a photograph of his sculptured bust, you know, his head. Leave it to him. And he said, "Dear Will and his mom, thanks for being so nice to my little kitten. Love, Lenny." So
that's wonderful.
My mom went over there. It was his daughter's birthday. She brought a present over, knocked on the door, and some guy opened the door stark naked. So I'm sure there were a lot of wild goings-on there. And that daughter must have had some childhood.
Yeah, I would think.
But anyhow, Tuesday Weld. I went out with secretaries. I didn't go out with movie stars. And so I had a date one night to go to this party. So I came out of my front door, and who's out front in a car? Tuesday Weld. Waiting for me. I mean, she knew where I lived. She knew I was, and I couldn't believe it. I went, well, listen, I got a date tonight, but give me your phone number, and I'll call you tomorrow. We'll go to a basketball game. So she gave me her phone number, and I indelibly etched it on my brain so I wouldn't forget. And I went to the party that night, and I had a great time, too great a time. I slept all the next day, and I didn't call her, and that was the end of that. I never saw her really. I saw her at a party once, and just right by me, you know. Right. But that was my one chance with Tuesday World, and I blew it.
Well, she might have been a little too young for you, maybe.
Oh yeah, but she did go out with older guys.
Yes, she did. She was linked to a lot of people. I even think John Ireland or something.
John Ireland.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Oh boy, what a memory you've got. Wow.
Well, what about you to remember Betsy Palmer and James Dean rooming together? Speaking of strange roommates, Marlon Brando had a famous roommate. You never know who's going to be buddies in Hollywood.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Can you imagine those two guys?
Right. Could you see Wally Cox and Marlon Brando walking into a bar and Wally Cox turning to Brando and saying, "Hey, don't crowd me," you know?
Well, he was, I understand, a pretty good athlete. You know, very deceptive.
Yes.
Did you see him on Wagon Train?
No, was he on Wagon Train?
Oh, he was wonderful. He played a school teacher. He's the only guy I ever saw on Wagon Train who just leapt off the wagon train. He didn't use the wheels or use his hands or anything. He just jumped off.
He had a lot of energy.
I did Hollywood Squares with him. I was on one end. He was on the other, on the top row, and Maury Amsterdam was in between.
Uh-huh.
And I think I got Wally to whistle. You know, he was able to whistle like an organ. It sounded like a pipe organ.
Oh.
That guy was sensational. But he wouldn't go to lunch with us. It would have been great just to really talk to him.
He probably had a meeting with Brando. He just,
Well, I understand they were quite the team.
Yeah.
They came over to Betsy Palmer's a few times. She told me about that. And I guess they were decided they were going to paint the apartment. So they had all this painting equipment, you know, the stuff on the floor, the mats, and all the paint cans and everything. And they never got around to finishing it. It was always there.
You know, we've talked a lot about Clint Walker, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
But, we never really talked about Ty Hardin. We have to complete the trifecta here.
Oh, gosh, he was a great guy. I heard years later that I was his favorite person on the Warner's lot, and it was an honor because we got along great, but we went to the Philippines to make Merrill's Marauders, and I was always on his case because we played serious poker, and I take no quarter. I'm out to get that buck, or whatever, yen or whatever it is. We did it in the Philippines.
Right.
So, a jungle's a jungle. We shot it in the Philippines. It was supposed to be Burma. I just love that guy, and I was thinking about him today, as a matter of fact. His name was Tyrus Hungerford III or something.
Wow.
And I think he was from New Jersey or something, but he grew up in Texas, and he was a real Texan. And the funniest story I could tell you about him is we had a big party one night at one of the hotels. It was a Warner Brothers party. We had to rent tuxes, and the gals got all finery, and they borrowed jewelry from their jewelers, I guess. Really a big deal. Now, Peter Breck was the joker of the lot. What a great guy he was. He told Ty it was a costume party. So Ty came as an Apache warrior with a loincloth and not much else. And he didn't care. He had a great time, and the joke was on us.
Yeah, he appeared on Sugarfoot. You appeared on his show. Well, all three of you, Clint Walker and Ty, and you all appeared on each other's shows.
Yeah, and all three of us did a Cheyenne, which a duel is Judas Basin or something. Really a good one.
And you and Ty and Clint Walker would meet up for these festivals and shows. Yeah. So it's not like you guys worked together and never saw each other again. You maintained a friendship with these two men.
Yeah. Clint Walker was just such a wonderful guy. The last time I talked to him, I was putting myself down. I was saying I did a lousy job, and he said to me, I never saw you do a bad job. Everything I ever saw you do was great. In fact, one time I did a show, I forget what it was, after I left Warner's. I think it was an Elvis movie or something. And he called me up to compliment me, but I was down at the beach, so I got his phone message on the phone. But he was just a terrific guy, and so was Ty. He had a thing called the Hollywood Christian Group, and everybody went, and very few of us were that religious, but it was a great meeting ground,
Yeah.
So that was terrific. And just recently, I found we did a layout once at Disneyland, and maybe I believe in ESP and all that. Maybe I had this planned. It was planned for me to talk to you about it because I just found it. And we went to Disneyland, and we went north and south and east and west, up and down. We covered that whole place, and they took pictures of it. And it was just a great layout, the two of us at Disneyland.
Wow.
So we were good pals. We got along great.
Bronco, WFDU FM.
We're back with our guest today, Will Hutchins, and I've noticed in all of these interviews that we've had over the years that you've often mentioned the early horror movies, the Universal movies, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula. I mean, you really love that stuff.
Yeah, I thought they were so much scarier because nowadays they're too blatant.
Yes.
They show the ooze coming out of the brain and stuff. In those days, they had censorship, so you had to use a lot of your imagination. You contributed as much as the filmmakers did. So I loved all those movies, and Boris Karloff, gosh, he was great. I remember there used to be a show on the radio called Information Please.
Yes.
And Oscar Levant and John Kiernan and FPA Franklin P. Adams. Yeah, I remember I can't remember my lines, and I can't remember our show last week. Anyhow, Boris Karloff was a guest once, and he was the best they ever had. He was just absolutely brilliant. Oh, they were making a Frankenstein 1950 or something once at Warner Brothers when I was there. And I forget the number, but it was Frankenstein something. And he played the professor. The mad scientist. He didn't play the monster. So I went over to the sound stage. I used to haunt the sound stages to see all the other masters at work. And Dennis Hopper would always beat me to it. He was always there ahead of me. Anyhow, so I went on the Frankenstein whatever set, and he was a mad scientist. So he was fooling around on the set. He said, I see somebody there. Hey, there. And he's fooling around. Roll action. And he becomes a mad scientist, just like that. And perfect, letter perfect.
Well, I just thought about that. You've made so many different types of movies and TV shows. Did you ever do a horror?
You haven't read my reviews, have you?
No.
I did one. It was called Horror at 37,000 feet.
Oh, yes.
And I think it was movie of the week. I think originally the title was Horror at 45,000 feet. Now, why they should have to go down to 37,000? Maybe it was a budget. I don't know.
Or maybe everybody would just be lightheaded. There's not much oxygen up there, so
it was an all-star cast, with one exception, and we shot some of it at the Selznick studio. Where they did Gone with the Wind.
Sure.
The airplane stuff we had to do it at CBS in the Valley, because they had a permanent inside of an airplane set. So we did most of it there, but it was about I forget the plot, but it was something about some weird guy carried the spirit of some ghost in his satchel or in his suitcase or something, and it started spooking the whole airplane when we were 37,000 feet up. And I don't remember much more about it than that, but that was the one horror picture I did, and everybody was in it. Buddy Ebsen.
Oh, wow, okay.
What a great guy he was, but he was a little cuckoo. But all actors are.
Right.
I mean, he was talking about the revenuers, the tax guys coming into his property. And he said, if I ever see those tax people coming to my property, I got a loaded shotgun in the entryway, ready at all times. And I went, and he just looked at me. He wasn't kidding. Can you imagine that?
Now, I just pulled up the cast list for this movie.
Oh,
so
great.
Here we go.
Geez, that's great. Oh, I just love modern times. That's just great.
It aired on February 13th, 1973.
Good rating.
The director was David Lowell Rich.
Yeah.
And
I was very poor.
It says a Boeing 747 flight from London to New York, piloted by Captain Ernie Slade, played by Chuck Connors.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Oh, yeah, he was terrific to work with. Oh, he was terrific.
He's the star of the picture, according to this.
He was really hot then, rifleman and baseball and all that. He used to go on sports shows and recite Casey at the Bat.
Yeah.
You hear it once or twice, okay, but... Oh.
And then you've got, Chuck Connors, Buddy Ebsen, William Shatner, Roy Thinnis from The Invaders, that show. There you are, Will Hutchins, Tammy Grimes.
Oh, that's right. Right, yeah.
Lynn Loring.
Uh-huh.
Paul Winfield. And then we're getting, Russell Johnson, who played, the professor, and H.M. Wynand.
Uh-huh.
And there it was.
I've worked with him in other shows.
Wow, look at this. It
was a ghost story at 37,000 feet.
Okay. Now, I just pulled up, there's a review. Now, I'm just going to... I'm going to... So I'm just going to just read.
Thanks a lot. I'll remember you at Halloween.
Here's the review.
Okay.
The Horror of 37,000 Feet is a silly film. Wait a minute. Although, to its credit, most of the principals do maintain a degree of intent gravity. And treat the exercise seriously. That's not a bad review, actually.
Well, we all jumped out of the airplane at the end, so we exercised gravity.
Hey, lady, you trying to tell me that a piece of rock's got something to do with killing the flight engineer?
The abbey was built on the sacred grove of the Druids, a place where they committed human sacrifices to the ancient gods of darkness, cold, wind, the old ones they call them. And every 100 years, at the summer solstice, they still...
What's that got to do with us? With all this crazy business. This lady's talking about demons and spirits and stuff on this airplane. Well, I'd sure like to get some answers, and right quick.
Perhaps you are too eager for answers. Sometimes there are none.
Well, I've often said it, and I'll say it again. There needs to be the Will Hutchins book.
Okay.
The Will Hutchins scrapbook.
When are you going to get on it?
Right, yeah. But you know what?
Well, I have a lot of scraps for it, for sure.
You know what? Before we go here, because we're going to be wrapping up shortly.
Okay.
But as a little surprise for you, obviously, 89th birthday is nothing to... I know.
I'm sorry, knee-jerk reaction.
I'm sorry, Mr. Benny, a 39th birthday. It's nothing to sneeze at. So some of our listeners called in, and they have some birthday greetings for you.
You're not pulling my leg?
I am not pulling your leg.
Because if you were, I want you to pull it together when it straighten me out.
Right, exactly. So we're going to start with a birthday message from the famous Lynn in Fort Lee.
Hi, Will. This is the famous Lynn in Fort Lee. I'm so pleased to be able to wish you the happiest of birthdays to the best guest ever on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. Happy birthday, Will.
Isn't that sweet?
Yeah, the best guest ever, she says.
How come I never heard this? You do this when I listen to your show.
Yeah, I've never put people on the air. This is the first time that I've recorded people.
Oh, wow, what an honor.
So, and there's more. We have next up a birthday message from Ray in the Bronx.
Will Hutchins, it's Ray from the Bronx wishing you a wonderful happy birthday. I had the pleasure of meeting you once at an old-time convention, and you are just the best. I always wanted to be you.
Hey, Ghosty?
Yeah.
Tell Ray in the Bronx he owes me $5. I remember him well.
So now we have Rockin' Bob in Fairlawn.
Oh, boy, all these people, they're coming to life.
Right.
This is great.
Right, you've heard their names.
Yeah.
And here they are. Here's Rockin' Bob in Fairlawn.
You made him famous.
His birthday message to you.
Hey, Will, this is Rockin' Bob from Fairlawn, and I'm calling to wish you a happy 89th, can you believe that? 89th birthday. You've lived a wonderful life. You always do a great interview with Ghosty, and I always look forward to those interviews, and you have a wealth of knowledge about you that I've always enjoyed listening to. So, anyway, enjoy your day, and hopefully many, many more.
Wow, you have great people that listen. I mean, they have wonderful voices and a way of expressing themselves. It's just terrific.
This we're putting together the Will Hutchins fan club here is what it sounds like, all these people. And finally, I got one more to play for you.
Okay.
This is the Fell Monster. Now, the Fell Monster is, he requests on the show, but he also does his impression of you.
Oh, wow.
So what you're going to hear is a little bit of his impression of you.
Getting into character, as you can tell. Probably one of my favorite Sugarfoot. We all read our pre-written ad-libs, and then we jumped on our horses backwards and rode off into the ocean. The happy birthday, Will, from the Fell Monster.
Oh, that's great.
Now, that sounds like something you would have said on the show.
Oh, what a thrill this is. What's he call himself?
The Fell Monster.
Well, even King Kong fell.
Well, anyway, as always, it's a thrill to speak with you. I'm glad you enjoyed some of our messages from listeners.
Oh, what a treat. Thanks to all the people that called in. I love you all, but I know you well. We're all compadres.
Yeah.
With the same cause, yeah.
All
We're
right.
rebels with a cause.
Well, with that, we're going to put you on your horse backwards and send you off into the ocean. And
I thought the horse needed a haircut there for a while.
all right, you take care and adios.
Adios, amigo, and adios, mis amigos out there in Radio Land.
Movie Cowboy by Ed Phillips. I was a movie cowboy in a former life, carried a gun and toted a knife. Had a horse, loyal and true. Sometimes I called him Tony, sometimes Old Blue. Had a sidekick that was a little crazy, and sometimes he was a little lazy. There was always a co-star, a pretty gal. They called her Peggy Dale or sometimes Sal. There were bad guys, and I knew them well, and the locations sometimes were worse than hell. I'd fight the bad guys, sometimes twice and always won. Then I'd hug the gal, kiss the horse, and the movie's done. It was a life I lived for many a year, and was a time that I hold dear. It's all gone now. It's in the past. I figured a long time ago that it wouldn't last. So I saved my money and bought a place with a lot of room. I now ride a rocking chair and listen to the critters howl at the moon. Been a good life I've had on the silver screen. It's been so long now it sounds like I've lived a dream. The fan mail still comes now and then and fills my heart of old times when I visit friends on Friday night, watch my old films. Ha ha, what a sight. All my cowboy friends have gone away, and I guess my time will come someday. I pray that as the years begin to fade, you all remember them dusty trails we made.